It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Jen Cohen as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Hello and welcome to Countywide. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Jen Cohen. Today we are talking to Janine Trevelyan, who is a historian and the president of the Sedona Historical Society. We will be talking about the Sedona Heritage Museum. Check it out, sedonamuseum.org. That's the website. Lots of great stuff on it. Check it out, sedonamuseum.org. Janine, thank you for being here with us today.
Good morning. Thank you, Jen.
This is an exciting year for you guys at the museum, isn't it?
This is a big year. 20 years ago, in 1998, the Sedona Heritage Museum opened its doors for the first time and started welcoming our guests. So we are having a big party, celebration, extra things going on all year.
Wow, that's amazing. 20 years.
20 years, and it's all volunteers. It's a volunteer organized, volunteer put together, volunteer keeping it going and operating. Volunteers run the programs, do the exhibits, board-driven kind of organization with a working board. So the board is always involved in something. But it's just been a wonderful 20 years. And for a small town like Sedona to have a museum that we feel we're pretty proud of, we've won multiple museum awards for exhibits, for our individual contributions by volunteers, for programs. We won in 2012 the state award for the museum that put on the best program celebrating the Arizona Centennial for statewide. So we're award-winning, we're certified as a museum that meets certain criteria for professionalism and activities and level of programming and things like that. So for a volunteer organization, we're pretty happy with ourselves, and we're just really happy that the community is so supportive in Sedona. You know, a lot of people in Sedona come from somewhere else, okay? So they bring their own history and their own background. So when they get to Sedona, it's really all about learning about their new hometown. And so we play a real big role in that. Come to Sedona, learn to appreciate how Sedona became Sedona. What were those people like? What did they have to do before we could become the kind of community that has a worldwide renown now? 140 years ago, what was going on? Because really we've got a relatively new history also in Sedona. We don't have permanent settlers until the 1870s, much as the Verde Valley.
But in that time period, though, rich history. I mean, the amount of things that happened here and people that came through and what they accomplished in such a short period of time is all completely well represented at the museum. It's a small museum. So when you say that you've won this award statewide for celebrating this, that's amazing considering it's a little tiny museum. It is, yes. And the progress you make every year, something new. What's new this year?
We try to set audacious goals, we say, for ourselves every year. So over the past few years, a couple of things we've done, and you've been out there to see our telegraph office, the last remaining building from the old movie set from when everybody in Hollywood used to come to Sedona to make movies in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, and early 60s when Westerns were big. We were a big location, big set. Location of choice, if you will, for movies. And so when they had a movie street in Sedona where the movie crews would come and make movies, Western films, well, that's all gone now, of course, but we did save the last building, and in that building, when people come to the museum, they can see and learn all about the history of movie making Sedona and watch fun movie clips. And they're really fun too because you can see all these iconic rock formations. You know exactly where the movie was made because you'll be able to pick out the rock formations in the background. That's cool. Now, the next thing we've moved on to is, you know how winemaking has made such a comeback in Arizona, but especially in the Verde Valley. We're really becoming known for that. But what we've done is we were doing some research on winemaking. Just outside of Sedona, a couple of miles, back in the 1880s, there was a family who moved here, and they were winemakers. And they started a big vineyard and started to make wine, and they sold their wine to the miners in Jerome and the loggers in Flagstaff. And we have some diaries of one of their neighbors and their neighbor talks about, oh, went to the Schurman home today and bought wine, or the so-and-so family came through today, spent the night at the Schurmans and ate and had wine, and all these kinds of stories. So as we were researching that and thinking, gee, you know, it's timely, there's all this interest in winemaking now, we should maybe tell this long history of winemaking. It's not just a 10 or 15-year-old history, it's a 100 and some odd year history.
Wow.
So we did the research, and as we were doing the research, we discovered that it's generally accepted in Arizona that the Schurman family winery just outside of Sedona was the first commercial winery in the state of Arizona. Actually, before we were a state, they were the first commercial winery. While the Franciscan priests and some of those people were making wine long before that, they were making it for personal use, not for this commercial enterprise. So here's the Schurman family, big vineyard, and making their own wine. So we have now a professionally designed exhibit on the history of winemaking in the Verde Valleys with a big section about the Schurman family and that winery. Great pictures. The family is really great. There's still family representatives in the area, so they have all these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos, some of them going back to the 1890s and 1900. So we were able to take historic photos of the winery building and the vineyard, showing the rows of grapes and everything like that. And we took them to the students in the virtual tour lab at NAU, and they have created a virtual tour. So now you feel like you're walking through this 1890 era vineyard, and then you turn and you walk up to the stone winery building, and there's someone there with barrels of wine, there's someone else there pressing grapes. So that's been incorporated into the wine exhibit, along with some historic photos. And we found a young lady who is German by descent, and she read some of the Schurman family letters about winemaking. And so now you can also do an audio tour and listen to family letters about that.
Fantastic.
So there's always something new going on. We're working on something new for this year. We're going to create an exhibit on the history of the importance of water and the importance of irrigation in Oak Creek, because people didn't come for the beauty, 140 years ago and say, I think I'll farm here because it's so pretty.
Right.
They came because of the creek. Water was critical. So that'll be our next big goal.
Wow.
And then we have some audacious ideas past that too.
And there's a huge list of events as well, which we're going to take a short break in a moment. We will get to those shortly, but it's every single month there's something going on. It's really impressive. And of course you have all those classes, which I love, and all the demonstrations. And it's so wonderful. All the volunteers just pitch in, let's prickly pear jam, or let's do woodworking, or let's do this. It's you pack so much into that little building.
We tried.
You do such a great job. It's one of my favorite places. There's always something going on. If you look at the website, sedonamuseum.org, and you look under things that are happening, there's always a list of what's going on. And you'll want to be there every weekend for something, for some class or some lecture, or there's a book that's being read, or some sort of presentation, and period actors. It's amazing what you do there. You do the work of an NAU quality museum in this tiny little place that's so awesome. Check out sedonamuseum.org. We're talking about the Sedona Heritage Museum, in case you missed it. We're talking with Janine Trevelyan. She is the president of the Sedona Historical Society and the historian over there at the Sedona Heritage Museum. We've got to take a short break, but we'll be right back with more Countywide, so don't go away.
It appears these hot ashes are about to be dumped, which could possibly start a wildfire. How will Smokey deal with such a hot situation? The garden hose defense. Next, a thorough stir. Then another spray. And finally, feeling if the ashes are cool.
Oh, yeah.
Ah yes, the selfie. A ritual practiced so frequently with this tribe, but not so much by Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm your host, Jen Cohen. We're talking with Janine Trevelyan, who is the president of the Sedona Historical Society and a historian for the Sedona Heritage Museum. Check out sedonamuseum.org. It's the 20th anniversary celebration. Museum has been around for 20 years, and of course it feels like it's been there for 120 years because it blends in beautifully to the backdrop. The property that it's on, is there anything special about the property that it's on?
The property is on the National Register of Historic Places. It actually sits on a piece of land that was homesteaded by the very first white child born in Oak Creek Canyon, Frank Thompson.
Wow.
But he sold the property a couple of times until it was purchased by members of the Jordan family in the late 1920s. When Mr. Jordan married a little rural school teacher from down the road of Beaver Creek, they built a home. They expanded that home 3 times, and eventually it's become what it is today, which is a native red rock home and a native red rock fruit packing shed, because they were orchardists. They grew lots, acres and acres and acres of peaches and apples, along with some truck farm kinds of vegetables too.
Excellent.
So, and what's really great is they were one family that built those buildings, lived there until they passed it along to the city and the Historical Society. And so they never felt the urge to remodel. They did it right the first time. So everything's very authentic.
Oh my gosh, it's adorable. I love the kitchen.
Yeah,
that's one of
it's
my
a pretty
favorite
awful
spots.
place to have to go and volunteer, I will tell you that. Beautiful views
Oh no,
from there.
it's awful. Yeah, I know.
It's really
it's too
awful.
fun. So tell us, what are you doing to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the museum?
Good. We're going to hopefully have a big party. We're planning for Saturday, May 19th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., which are the museum's normal hours. We're going to start at 10:30 with a little reenactment of the ribbon cutting that was done 20 years ago when the museum first opened. So we'll have the mayor, we're going to have some past presidents, and some of the people who were there the day of the original ribbon cutting are going to come back, which is great. So we'll do this little kind of re-celebration, honoring just those people who were working 20 years ago, etc., and all the people since. Then we start with all kinds of activities. So we're going to have live music throughout the day. We're going to have a stage set up that'll have music and special performances. We're going to have people set up outside doing talks and demonstrations, all the kinds of things like dowsing, blacksmithing, prehistoric fire starting, native plants for medicinal uses, weavers, spinners, wood carvers. We're going to have a kids make and take activity so that kids can come and, kids of all ages, by the way, can make a corn husk doll. We've got a tin punch activity planned. And we're really excited because some local gentlemen, and maybe you've run into Bill Cowan from Camp Verde, he's bringing his wagon, and we're going to set out the fires in the Dutch ovens. We're going to have apple cobbler, of course, because we're at the orchard. Or we might even have apple and peach. We're still working on that because they did both. Apple and peach cobbler, and then he's going to make biscuits.
Nice.
So Dutch oven biscuits, which you can't go wrong with Dutch oven biscuits. So that'll be kind of a fun thing.
Wow.
Probably some birthday cake will be involved. We're going to have a couple of local authors who've written history books about Sedona history. They'll be on site signing. We're going to do some door prizes, raffle kinds of things, gift shop sale. You know, whatever we can do to say thank you to the community for 20 years of support. thank you for making sure we have this wonderful location to the city of Sedona, because they own the property and make sure that we are a tenant there and are able to stay there. So we want to really thank the community for the support, for how we've grown over the years because of their support, because of their personal involvement as volunteers, maybe their financial donations, whatever it's taken to get us going and keep us going and keep us growing.
That's amazing.
So,
how do you do all of what you do? Where does your funding come from?
We are a private nonprofit, so we are a tenant of the city. The city provides us the property at a good deal, but everything else we do comes from our memberships, our museum admissions, our gift shop sales, the benefits from that, and then gifts and grants. So if anyone is not already a member of the Sedona Historical Society, we hope you'll join. We're running a special this spring too. For $20, because it's our 20th anniversary, you can join the museum for your first year membership and join at one of our $100 level supporter levels. And you get all kinds of extra benefits that come with that for the first year. So we're trying to do some special things and bring in the new people in the community who maybe came from somewhere else, don't know that much about the community. It's a great way to learn about a little bit about how we tick, and it's a great way, if you're new in town also, if you come volunteer, to build your new circle of friends, to build your Sedona family. Come volunteer at the museum.
Volunteer, huh? And if they want to volunteer, how do they get in touch with you?
You can call the museum at 282-7038 and ask for the volunteer coordinator. Brandy is our volunteer coordinator. She's an energetic thing.
Super nice.
Yeah, so we're very excited to have Brandy with us, and she will be able to explain people all kinds of opportunities that we have. There's behind the scenes, out front with the customers, whatever people's personal style might be.
What happens behind the scenes, Janine?
Well, as historian, I'm one of the behind the scenes people too sometimes, and that is I'm responsible for the collection. So when a family or someone who lived in Sedona comes forward and says, we have these photos, we have this story, we have these items that were, you know, really one of a kind in Sedona, we'd like to make sure you have them and can preserve them. It's my job to accept them, and I work with a couple of committee people with me, and we accept them, we catalog them, we take photographs of them, we properly store them. And if people come to the museum, they can use our catalog system. They can sit at the laptop and they can look at 50,000 scanned photos, and we still have more to go. We have about 3,000 scanned objects or photos of objects that are cataloged, and they're put away for safekeeping because we can't put everything out, but they can see what we have. And then they can also review probably about 1,500 archival documents and maps. We have almost 300 oral histories. Those have all been digitized, transcribed, so people can come in and do word searches of our 300 oral histories and say, I want to know every time the word wine was mentioned by somebody, or every time the word movie was mentioned, or every time the word peaches, you know, or whatever, or a person's name. That's one of the behind the scenes, is keeping that kind of thing going.
That sounds like a lot of work.
There's also taking care of the buildings, taking care of outdoor exhibits, indoor exhibits too. You know, one day one exhibit will come down, and by morning a new exhibit will be up. Well, that all happened behind the scenes with a committee.
That's amazing. What's your favorite exhibit right now, Janine?
Oh gosh, you're being tough. My favorite exhibit, of course, I love the movie making history in the Telegraph office. I love the wine history because it's our brand new one and it has all these digital elements. We're really trying to do a lot of digital things now. Probably my new favorite exhibit is going to be the one that's going to go up in about 6 weeks. We're going to be putting up an exhibit celebrating Joe Beeler, who was, of course, one of the founders of the Cowboy Artists of America. So we're going to have some of his personal memorabilia, some of his artwork. We happen to have a chair and a table from the Oak Creek Tavern where the guys stood and did the founding. So we're going to be able to set up a little vignette about founding. So what's new is always my next favorite.
Got it. That's great, Janine. Check out sedonamuseum.org. We have to take another short break for Countywide, but we'll be right back.
Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley in Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
What to expect when you're expecting.
Like here?
A teenager.
Today, I'm going to show you how to teen-proof your home. First step, hide the car keys. Preferably somewhere they would never look. Challenges will come up. Be ready for them. Hi, honey. Ready for the...
Mom, you don't use mannequins in the mannequin challenge.
You don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
If you don't fix them, sparks from dragging tow chains could cause a wildfire, and that could be scary. Hi, Smokey. Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hello and welcome back to Countywide. I'm Jen Cohen. We're talking with Janine Trevelyan, who is the president of the Sedona Historical Society, as historian at the Sedona Heritage Museum. The Sedona Heritage Museum is located at 735 Jordan Road in Jordan Park in uptown Sedona. It's on a beautiful piece of property. It's one of the most amazing museums, award-winning. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. You guys are running a special, Janine, $20 for your first year of membership to the Historical Society. That's fantastic. The entry fees to the museum always blow me away.
Very good. $7 for adults. Children 12 and under are free. We also have an audio tour system with like 35 stops around the property where you can listen to reenactors tell a story about what you're looking at. That's an additional $3. So $10 and you get the whole package if you're an adult.
Great. And then your calendar of programs, which you can find if you go to sedonamuseum.org. Look up the calendar of programs, the monthly things that are happening. Almost everything on here is free. You don't charge for any of these things, except for the fabulous Mr. Michael Peach. Now, he does every other month a presentation there that are outrageous.
Yes. Michael is a cowboy poet, so he writes original cowboy poetry. He's also an actor and a screenwriter, so he knows how to write something that's very engaging. So his once every other month, 1 hour shows are only $6. And he gives a really great performance for that whole hour. You get really fun stories, and every year he changes the show. So he will be introducing new pieces, has already introduced new pieces for this year's show, and he always picks a focus. Last year's focus was kind of like on animals and crazy stories about animals in Arizona history. This year his focus is Arizona politics, the quirks and some of the funny, goofy things that you're like, no, really, that couldn't have happened.
Right.
And Mike has found those stories for the last 140 years of Arizona history and has woven them into his cowboy poetry and into his historic narrative and humorous stories.
Great.
Everybody who comes, they leave the show and they say, Mike is really great. This is so great. I'm going to tell everybody about it. So come out and see Mike. His next show, I believe, is the first Saturday in April.
There we go. Yeah, it's cheaper than a coffee and a Danish, and you get this amazing hour-long show.
There you go.
The title of his show, Shenanigans and Skullduggery.
Yes.
I love that.
He does.
That's great. So there's always something going on there. I just love it. There's so much. You've got to check out the calendar, sedonamuseum.org. Check it out. Every month there's something going on. You've got free events. Of course, the 20th anniversary party is coming up on May 19th. Free admission to that. It's going to be an amazing day of fun. There's a fundraiser coming up in April you've got a rummage sale fundraiser on the 28th.
Yeah.
So we got to come spend some money for you.
Yes, do that. And if anybody has anything they'd like to donate, also we'll be taking donations the 5 days before the event, and we just like it if they come during business hours while we're around.
Excellent.
But yeah, it's a fun day. We'll also be having a bake sale of, the volunteers will be bringing in goodies. So come have a bake sale item and wander through our rummage and treasures sale.
I'm going to be there. Tell us the hours of your museum opening.
The museum is open 11 to 3, and our 20th anniversary party will match that, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay. What days of the week are
The museum is open 7 days a week.
7 days a week.
We take
11 to
off
3.
major holidays, so
Okay.
we're only closed about, I don't know what that is, but about 8 times a year.
Fabulous.
So you can almost always count on us. Just think of us like middle of the day, 11 to 3.
There we go. Check out the Sedona Heritage Museum. Go to sedonamuseum.org. We've been talking with Janine Trevelyan, the president of the Historical Society. That's all we have for Countywide. I'm Jen Cohen. See you next time.